Hey, what is up guys? Calum or Kilm's Fish Tanks, and today we're doing a little review on the Chihiros Vivid II. This is what I think is the best light I've ever used, for sure the best light I've ever used, and probably the best light on the market for its price. It's an absolutely amazing light, so today we're going to be doing a complete review of the Chihiros Vivid II. So let's get started. So we're going to be doing a tiny review talking about the specs of the light and details about it, as well as we're going to be talking about what to expect with it, how powerful this thing is, and what you can achieve and what's possible with it so far for me and that I've found out, as well as talking about what settings I run mine on and how you should adjust yours to get the results you want to see from your planted tank. Now if you're looking to buy one of these, you can purchase them at aquariumco2.ca. I'll have a link to them down below in my description. You can use code CALUM for 5% off your order, which will help you save a ton off this pretty expensive light, but they are amazing and I think they're totally worth the price. So this light produces up to 130 watts of power, and the great thing is you can adjust that all throughout the app. You can choose how much you want each of the LEDs on and mess around with things. It also allows you to adjust the ramp time and the duration you have the light on. So you don't need a timer with one of these lights, which is a super big plus because timers are always annoying, especially when like daylight savings happens and you have to go back and change them all back an hour. It's just a mess and something I always forget to do, so this gets rid of this because it's attached to your phone. One little statistic I found pretty interesting that I didn't know before buying this light is the LEDs have a lifetime of 50,000 years according to Chihiros. Or 50,000 hours, sorry, not years. But that number means nothing, so I went and did a bit of research on how long those would last. So if you run your light for 8 hours a day, your LEDs should last you about 17 years. So if you get one of these lights, it's not going to be something you have to change anytime soon. So the LED itself is about 22 inches long, making it perfect for 24-inch long tanks, or if you want that in centimeters, that's 60 centimeters. If you're going to do a 4-foot tank, I'd recommend at least 2 of these. And I've seen them used on 36-inch tanks or 3-foot long tanks, and they just don't spread far enough to cover the whole thing, but I think you may be able to get away with using one of these on, for example, a 20 long, a tank that's 30 inches long. I think you could do it, but in the corners where you're not getting much light, you'll have to use easier plants, things like, Hygrophila polysperma. But it's definitely doable to have this light over a 30-inch tank. That being said, I wouldn't expect the same results if I put this over a 30-inch tank as I do when you see it over my 24-inch tank though. Now let's talk about how powerful these lights actually are. I wouldn't recommend these for low-tech tanks. You're definitely going to have to do high-tech tanks, high energy. These aren't for beginners. This is a lot of power to be putting over your tanks, and it could lead to algae if you're not prepared to deal with it or well-versed enough. I don't have a par meter, so I can't actually quantify how powerful these lights are, but I'm going to let my plants talk for themselves. So when talking about light, lumens don't really matter. It's all about par and how big your tank is. So my tank's dimensions are 24 inches long, 12 inches wide, and 18 inches tall, or 60 centimeters long, 30 centimeters wide, and 45 centimeters tall. So it's definitely a taller tank compared to most 24-inch long tanks. With this light, I've been able to grow some pretty impressive plants that I've never been able to grow this well before. For example, in this tank I have an insanely dense glossostigma carpet. This isn't a super hard plant and it's definitely doable under other lights, but I'm surprised at how fast I've got this thing to grow and how quickly I've got it to keep that nice small leaf shape and grow really densely in this aquarium. One plant I've never ever been able to grow is Ludwigia verticulata inclinata, or inclinata verticula. I don't know which way it is. That's one of the plants I don't know the name well. I just know it's one I've tried 4 times and I've killed it each time. But now that I have this light, I'm doing really well with it. Usually this plant likes really heavy fertilization, like the EI method, but I'm making it work with a lean dosing regime really well, and I'm super impressed by it, and I blame the success on the Chihiros Vivid II. This light's, like I've said, amazing. And there's another impressive plant in there that I thought for sure would be dead by now because plants have overcrowded it, grown all over it, and I can't even see it without moving the plants out of the way. And that's Eriocolon King Crimson, or Eriocolon. I'm going to put up the scientific name here because I don't know how to say that one as well. But this plant's completely shaded out, but this light's strong enough to get through those plant leaves and keep this plant alive, surprisingly. If you've ever tried Eriocolons, you know they're a pain, but this one's thriving in this tank so far, even being super heavily shaded. I could probably get it doing much better if I just go back and trim some plants a bit better. You can see this light is perfect for Dutch style aquariums, or even if you just want a lot of color, it's just perfect because these LEDs are really good and it makes the plant colors really pop. Now let's talk about the parameters I run my lights on, and more importantly the reasons. You guys can adjust them to do, what suits your aquarium and your plants best. So I run the light for 6 hours a day. This is just a number I've found that works for me, especially with high-tech tanks. I found running it for 6 hours leads to happy and healthy plants and very little algae. So I run my tanks on 6 hours of light. This tank included with the Chihiros Vivid II, it's on for 6 hours. And I do no ramp time either. I just found there wasn't a point. The only setting to choose for is half an hour, and I didn't really want it to ramp for that long. So I do 6 hours on, no ramp time, and that's pretty much what I do for the duration. But let's talk a little bit about color, because that's probably what people want to hear about a bit more. So let's talk about each of the LED colors. So first off, we've got red. I run the reds at 100%, which is a little bit crazy, but this is what I've found makes those red plants really pop. If you want to learn more about getting red plants, I'll post a video or a link up here where you can go click my video all about how to get red plants and the science behind red plants. But the reason for the 100% red is in that video pretty much. Next up, we've got the light blue. I run my light blue at 60%. Now if you want a more green tank, kind of a nature style, with super strong light but looks really good, super green, super fresh, I'd definitely recommend bumping that up higher. But I only run mine at 60 because I'm going for red. If you wanted a more green tank, I'd switch the light blue to 100 and the red to 60, and that'll lead to a much greener looking tank and just look more nice for our eyes rather than the plants themselves. I don't know how much sense that made, so if you want more green tank, do more light blue. If you want more red tank, do more of the red, pretty much. I'll keep it simple that way. But then there's also the dark blue, which I used to run at 60%, but I've since bumped up to 80. And the simple reason for that is my Bucephalandra. So I run the dark blue on this tank at 80%, and the main reason for this is my Buse, like I've mentioned, mainly my Bucephalandra Ghost 2011, which can get a really nice dark purple color. But you're only going to get that if you A, have a lot of light on the tank, and have a lot in the blue spectrum. So I use a strong blue to get that nice color from the Buse Ghost 2011. So hopefully I taught you guys something new and gave you a bit of insight on these amazing lights, but if you're interested in purchasing them, remember I have the link to aquariumco2.ca down below where you can use code KALUM for 5% off your order. But anyways guys, thank you guys so much for watching. This was Kalum's Fish Tanks. Peace.